Good evening and welcome to Real Talk on SABC 3, where the stage is yours. I'm your host, Azania Mosaka. Who can possibly forget the biggest radio sports show in the country? The 083 Sports at 6 on Metro FM was arguably the most influential sports show in South Africa. Not only because hundreds and thousands of us tuned in every evening, but also because it often set the tone for the narrative of a multitude of sports-related discussions. Well, about a year ago, fans all over the country were left devastated when media reports surfaced all over stating that the man behind this groundbreaking and much-loved sports show would no longer be on air. Well, fast forward to earlier on this month, a big announcement was made that the voice of reason would be back with a bang on SABC Radio to continue where he left off as host of a sports show on two big radio stations, Metro FM and Radio 2000. This has gotten sports fans quite excited. And you should know who I'm talking about by now. It's the one and only Robert Marawa. He's here to talk about the much-talked radio comeback, the lessons that he's learned, the good and the bad that he's taken in his career, as well as his life's journey. Welcome back, Robert. Welcome to Real Talk.
Well, congratulations to you, talk show host.
Thank you, thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you could come and sit down with me, have a chat, have a catch up, especially during this busy time. Because we've got the World Cup going on, and it's been an exciting tournament. What do you think of the tournament so far, especially the prospects for African teams?
I think exciting if you're not African, because if you are African, then you're, angry because things aren't going well. A short while ago, Morocco were kicked out of the World Cup, so it really tells you again that maybe the journey for us is still that much longer.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. I mean, the whole announcement regarding radio was, for me, again, unanticipated. It was something that came through and they said, here's an idea. How about we go a certain journey, a certain route, and have one show spread over 2 hours across 2 radio stations. And 2 of the biggest footprint radio stations that the SABC has under its wing. And I mean, you can drive anywhere through the borders of the country, you'll find Radio 2000. So that is how far-reaching it is as a radio station.
It's giving you more reach than ever before.
Exactly.
So some people are calling it a comeback, but you're saying it's a continuation.
It's a continuation.
How are you feeling? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling like the people want the show to be tomorrow. That is just literally, I mean, the World Cup obviously has come through and been the buffer, and I always believe in preparation. I don't just walk in and switch on a microphone, so I always got to prepare. I got to do the scripting. I got to start thinking of new and different ideas for the show. I mean, we had so many different formats that people loved in the week, from Reaction Monday to Room Dividers to Soccer Wednesdays. On Thursdays, we had Chairman's Chair. On a Friday, we had the Legends. So it's a case of that worked, but, it doesn't have to be a duplication of what worked before. So somewhere, somehow, I start needing to think a little bit more. What do I need to bring in? What needs to change? The promos, the drops, all of those things. Because it's not going to just be a radio show that you just switch into. It's got to be a different show where the listener is going to curse themselves if they can't listen to it the following day. So that's literally it. And 2 hours is almost like a blessing. People have been crying for 2 hours before. Remember when I started?
You never had enough time. You overran constantly. I'm sure the people who took after you always thinking, okay, another 10 minutes, because Robert always takes 10 to 15 minutes. His stuff always runs on.
No, I mean, it was the demand. I mean, I know it's not radio etiquette to do that, but somewhere, somehow, you found my good friend Rams, who initially, when he got there, would be like, this guy's chowing up my time. And then in the end, he was like, he was wanting to be in when the Room Dividers are in and talking and being a part of the chat, which is what talk is. I mean, talk doesn't have borders and boundaries and beginnings and ends.
And you don't know where it's going to go. You don't know where it's going to go. You've got to go in that direction. So I'm glad you've got 2 hours now. No more stepping on toes, right? And the radio clock is very, very tight. But let's go back. Let's go back a little bit, because you did your last show on the 15th of June, 2017. Just remind us what led to that, because it literally was this bomb that fell on everybody when you didn't come back.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was something strange, because when you get told that your producer is suspended because you didn't toe the line, I read a tweet from Babam Tetwa, and I also played commentary from SuperSport. Okay, so between those two things, I didn't hear the sirens going off outside. There were no policemen and women to come and arrest me. There was nothing wrong that I'd done. We had always played audio from SuperSport. We had always had guests that have come through from other broadcasters. I mean, SABC is a public broadcaster, so it incorporates anyone. If you work for E, there's no problem. You can come through. If you've achieved in the sporting world, then you deserve to be on the show. There's no borders or boundaries. Otherwise, it can't be a South African Broadcasting Corporation or a public broadcaster if it has those boundaries. So I literally took a stand, you know, and said, well, it wasn't my producer. I'm the one that read the tweet. Because I'm the one that's on air.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it's not my producer that played the audio. The thing is, there was no other audio, and we had to feed to the listener, you know, that particular tournament in the Africa Cup of Nations, of which SABC didn't have rights to. So if we don't have rights, then we go for stuff from the BBC. If it's not there, then we go for stuff from SuperSport.
And this had been conventional practice up until then.
Yeah. But then I got a sense, though, that there was a bigger game at play, and it was more targeting Robert than anything else. So in the end, they got their target. Robert was out on the 15th of June, and I'm sure they were doing somersaults and cartwheels and having split bras.
So, and it wasn't the first time that these tensions had come to the surface. You know, from time to time, it seemed like these tensions between you and management would surface from time to time. So who convinced you? Who twisted your arm then to come back?
It didn't need twisting. I'm a broadcaster. You know, I broadcast to people. I broadcast to people that love to consume it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the broadcaster belongs to the people. And that is why we love it. It's where I started. And I will always have respect for the SABC, because if it wasn't for the SABC, Robert would not have been able to put forward that becomes a talent and becomes a profession, and it becomes a broadcasting human being that can try and influence other people. You know, so there's never been beef with the SABC. I think people try and create that. At times there are individuals that come through and want to hold on to people and maybe direct them. I mean, two really good DJs said to me the last time they were trying to negotiate that, you know, you guys you think you're bigger now? We will do to you what we did to Bonang. And I thought, wow, okay. Is this about how individuals excite themselves about how they treat the talent? Because if she is great from 9 to 12 and the listeners are there, why do you want to come and interfere with that? You know, like, why you want to always interfere with successful people that are bringing the listeners, or potentially bringing the sponsors, or potentially growing, you know, the SABC? And, you know, I just think there needs to be minimizing of that, helping the talent, helping the people that are in the forefront, because at the end of the day, yeah, digital is in, it's kicking in, but the SABC will always stand there. And when you look at all the changes that they're making, I mean, I was watching the show last night with you and DJ Zintle and with Bonang before, and it looks great, it's brighter, you know, that you can see the digital era has kicked in, and there is improvement. So we need to nurture that, we need to try and improve that. You know. But
at the same time, Robert, you can't have runaway talent.
Yeah.
You know, you have an obligation to the public broadcaster or whoever the employer is. So there is that responsibility that can't be taken for granted or be seen to be insignificant. So you clearly were able to play the politics, but team player, are you?
Always a team player. You can ask anybody that's worked with me, because it's not a case of, in sport, I think the politics are always there. They're always around. There'll be people that are not happy that the announcement was made that I'm coming back. And then there'll be little forces at play to try and trip that and try not to make it happen, etc., which I know and understand is happening. But for me, the bigger goal right now is that I've been asked, I've been tasked, we've spoken, we've been approached, and come the 1st of August, we got an obligation to go out there and give South Africans, Africa, and the world.
You are often very evasive, so I love the fact that you're being so open this evening about what the intention is and what you intend to do.
Sure.
There's also the much talked about 5.5 million rand deal. Is there any truth to this figure?
I think your pockets are bulging, so maybe you got the 5.5 million.
Always so coy, always so evasive. I wouldn't expect any less from you. Any truth?
No, yes, there isn't a truth to it. The thing is, otherwise then we will all have to have our contracts out there
In
for everybody
public.
to see.
Okay.
You know, like if somebody is out there dishing out contracts, maybe Kona Malibongwe and whatever drive, then that's exactly where we should be going.
Yes, and we've got it kick-started with Robert Marawa. So do you have a welcome back to the airwaves message for Madluputu, or perhaps a burning question? You can tweet at Real Talk on 3 or send us a 30-second voice note on WhatsApp, and the number is 072-4455-835. Now, Robert has for more than 2 decades been associated with very powerful sporting brands across the continent and the world. You speak of AFCON, the Commonwealth Games, the PSL Awards right here at home, the Soccer World Cup happening as we speak, as well as FIFA. But even with all the success and global recognition, how many of us can actually say that we would risk it all in solidarity with a colleague whom we feel was treated grossly unfairly? How many of us have shown courage and stood up against what we feel is an injustice in the workplace? Well, Robert has a story to tell. He's given us a hint about what went down. Don't miss it when we come back. Welcome back to Real Talk on SABC 3. There are many people who've been an inspiring and driving force behind his unremitting personality. His sister Gugu, Nomvola, Vanessa, and the late Elizabeth, as well as his beloved parents, Mampumlile, and his late father, that's Frank Marawa, as well as close friends and industry associates. Well, the one woman who has been the engine behind the success of Robert Marawa's radio show on Metro FM is Beverly Mapangwa. Robert switched off his microphone indefinitely after what he deemed to be an unfair suspension of his producer by management. Beverly Mapangwa is said to be back to produce this new simulcast radio show that Robert will be doing. Well, we'll ask him how he feels about that. But before we do that, we'll be playing messages throughout the show from some of Robert Marawa's favorite people. So let's start with the woman who worked closely with him at Metro FM. She's the host of Update at Noon on SAFM and Morning Live on SABC2. Robert affectionately calls her Ma Always. She too wanted to wish him well. Take a look.
Hi, Robert. Welcome back to the SABC family. Personally, I'm looking forward to listening to you on the radio once again, and I think many of the listeners will share this sentiment. You've already made your mark. There's very little that remains to be said, and you also creating history once again. Your show will be simulcast on Metro FM and Radio 2000. So all I have to say is good luck and enjoy.
Oh, man. So how does it feel to get a message like that from someone that you respect so much?
Yeah, I think that's the word, respect. I respect Sakina a hell of a lot. I mean, her journey has been incredible.
Yes.
And, you know, thanks so much, Maoles, for that. It's, you know, when you're in an industry where sometimes you feel boxed in, that you're not allowed to do or say certain things. And she's been one of those who've been brave enough to actually tackle those tough topics that people are afraid to get up and talk about. But it's not just being about tough and being brave for the hell of it. It's also having substance and constant knowledge of the subject matter that you're going to be dealing with. And she has that, you know, she has that rapport. She wants to be better. And the fact that she's now at Morning Live. I mean,
know, what a great transition.
Wow.
I recall Sakina as well as being very steadfast, very determined. And as you said, a voice of honesty, always speaking truth to power. So I can see where this friendship, how it comes together. But let's now talk about Beverly.
Yeah, sure.
You know, producers are often very underrated in this industry, and they play such a huge role in the success of any show. We're often just the face or the voice of the much hard-worked content that they've put together. You've worked with a number of producers.
Sure.
Why does she stand out?
She stands out because when Beverly approached me, she literally came through from nowhere. She said, this is what I do in terms of news and packaging and editing and stuff. And I said, okay, fine. It's a woman trying to get into an industry that is difficult. Then it reminded me back of my journey with Kaz Naidu. Now, Kaz Naidu was this woman that I knew cricket, loved cricket, you know, was on radio. And she was just destined to do great things. And I literally, long story short, I was about to go to a radio show. It was about 20 to 6. And me doing the unthinkable, said, Kaz, where are you? She said she's in the newsroom. I said, okay, meet me in the passage. And I took her up to the sports department. The late Mvuzo Mbebe was still the head. Yes. And I knocked on his door. I said, okay, Mvuzo, This is Kaz. Kaz, this is Mvuzo. I believe you guys might want to have a conversation. There's Cricket World Cup coming up. This is 2003, and I believe she could do something for you and for the channel. And I left and I went to do my show. Afterwards, she was signed up. She was going to be part of the 2003 Cricket World Cup broadcast. In fact, she wasn't even the head or the senior broadcast anchor.
Yeah.
There was somebody else, I forgot his name, from the UK, who was the senior person. And then the more Kaz started being on TV, she was front page of the Sunday Times, people were raving and talking about her. And I mean, I'm not sure what happened to the gentleman, but he left the country. The tournament wasn't finished. Kaz was then in charge. She took that tournament right through until the final as the anchor. And then she went and did cricket commentary around the world. And I was proud of that journey. You know, same thing with, you know, people like Mueng, you know, Julia Stewart. We bring them all into the fray because it is difficult for women to break it into the industry. So when that happened with Bev, I was like, on so many different levels, it was wrong. So rather sacrifice me, let me be out of the picture, because none of the people that write tabloids will phone and say, hey, Rob, how are you doing? Do you have bread? You haven't been on air for an entire year. Is everything okay with you? But the minute you come back, then they come back with headlines about 5.5 million, because now all of a sudden it's important to come back. But you were never concerned, the fact that the person was removed in a way that it wasn't supposed to, fighting another person's cause in the process. So I'm happy that she's there. She was always there, and she continues to do the work, and I look forward to going on the new journey with her.
I absolutely admired the principled stance that you took, because not many people would make that decision, forego their remuneration, to stand with someone in that kind of way. So you stopped your own show because you were taking this principled stance. Not a lot of people would do that. What drove you?
Broadcasting is very difficult, Azania. Broadcasting is just not something you step into. And I'm willing to take so many different punches. You know, people criticize, think this and that, and there is no problem. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions. But I know that as a journey, it wasn't an option for me when I left KZN, coming to study law here, that I can be a broadcaster and earn from broadcasting. So it is partially now, I find, my duty to try and push so that people can see that broadcasting is an option. So you can't all be engineers or doctors. You can't all be in banking. You can't all be the top entrepreneurs. But broadcasting is another facet to that. And when you say, if whatever that fee was is true, in a space of 3 years, you know, 5.5 million, let's be honest with it. It says absolutely nothing. If you are a top broadcaster anywhere in the world, that is money, I'm sure, Azania, that you would use to go buy new shoes, right?
Why are you boxing me? Eh?
I will say great shoes.
Thank you. Rather say that.
They are great shoes. So I'm just saying in a way that when you're looking for different options as far as what people's talents have, then broadcasting is one of them. So she's not an on-air person. She's a producer, and a damn good producer at that as well, because we've taken time to teach her some of the things, and she's been able to apply, and then she brings in her own little skills that come through. I bring in my little skills that come through.
And together it's a phenomenal team,
100%.
Explosive team.
Yeah.
As I was saying earlier, that you've driven so much of the sports narrative in this country together. So it takes a lot of work, the digging. You have what you call the scorpions. And there's also been a lot of curiosity about that. Who are these people? Who are your sources? You seem to have your tentacles in places that a lot of people can't access, together with Bev.
No, for sure. I mean, that's what makes the show. If the Marawa Scorpions have spoken, that coach is going there, that player is signing there, and you can't even argue about that. It's, but you grow within time. People trust you with information. So even if I'm on air and all of a sudden my phone goes off and somebody says, hey, this coach has just been fired, so look out for that. I didn't tell you, you know. So, but it's got to be from impeccable sources. It can't just be anybody taking a chance. And I'll always double, triple check. I try not to go on air with something. I mean, reputationally, it's something risky. So I'll always make sure that I double check what they say.
So you're in the building phase for this new simulcast show.
Yeah.
Any ideas on what it's going to be called? We know it's 2 hours. It's on Metro FM and Radio 2000. Anything you can give us? Yeah.
The name will be launched on that day.
It's Typical Robert.
No, but why spoil it? Why spoil a good
Typical Robert.
Why
Well,
spoil the
there
good
is no
story?
way we can't ask about the likes of Kaunda Ntunja, Thando Manana, and Lawrence Sipaka, also known as the Room Dividers. Now, they popularized Rugby Tuesdays by addressing very poignant issues pertaining to transformation in rugby on Robert's radio show. Well, will they be back on air in August? We don't know the name, but will they be back? I hope he gives us an answer. Stick around for that to find out.
Each week for 10 weeks, we're giving away the latest Huawei P20 Pro and 10 gigabytes once-off MTN data to 10 amazing storytellers. All you have to do is share your special moments with us. Follow at Huawei ZA and at MTN ZA and tag us with hashtag Huawei P20 and hashtag Real Talk Moments. We want to see and hear your stories and create lasting connections across the country. Each week there's a different theme, so keep checking our social pages for details and you could be a winner.
To hear from you, my man. I have nothing but immense respect for you as an operator, genius at work, and it's a no-brainer for me when it was announced that you'll be back on radio soon. I think everyone in the country is longing to hear your voice, is longing to hear radio again. I'm extremely grateful to have known someone like yourself who's resilient, determined mindset, and who's also got a good heart. Thank you for everything, and I shall be seeing you very soon, my brother. Keep well, Roberto. Enjoy the show. Thanks, brother.
Welcome back to Real Talk. That was the one-third of the famous trio of the Room Dividers, Thando Manana. One of Robert Marawa's most famous statements is, "My boss is my listener." These words have won him the respect of his audience, both male and female. And speaking of his wide appeal and keen interest and knowledge in all sporting codes, we're all dying to find out how he's going to continue to tackle these issues that he's been busy with around transformation within sport, alongside the Room Dividers, of course. That was Thando Manana, a lovely message. So what's the relationship like between the two of you? Because your face was like, this guy.
No, it's like, you know, he just sends me a message as I was driving here, like, have a good show, we'll be watching, you know, but he doesn't mention the fact that he's contributed to the show.
Yes.
I mean, like, really, do you make them sign something?
Of course.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Room Divider.
So when you put your show together, and the kind of successful show that you've had, there's also a bit of a science to it. You know, there's an art and a science to it. Do you think of your listeners, your viewers, who they are, what they're doing? Give us those insights, because these are some of the keys to the success that you've had.
No, for sure. I mean, it's all about creativity, and that's why I said it takes time. So when I sit down and I script like an opening, you know, he says this about Jacob and Julius, but I don't make mention of their surnames because then I'll be liable. But then I'll put an upsound of their, you know, their voices coming through. You know, so the bottom line is that sport is such a great margin. It's such, you know, it's something that we all enjoy. And when they did that research and they said that the female listenership on the show was actually on par, if not higher than the male.
Yeah.
But the might
must
not
have surprised you, because we don't hear the voices on the radio.
100%. And that's the surprise element, is that they don't want to become part of the conversation because, again, of that feeling that, no, let the guys talk, you know, it's a guy thing. But then come social media, you should see during the show, you know, the number of females tweeting or on Facebook or just making comments or retweeting. They're just part of the conversation.
Right.
And hopefully with the 2 hours, I would like there to be more people phoning in. Females who know sport, and I mean, I gave examples of others that have gone on to make it a career right now and continue to do well.
And
they're more
therein
than
is the
asked.
value, right?
Yeah.
Because the more diverse, the more representative the team is, the more different voices you're able to attract.
For sure,
So,
100%.
yeah, that can only mean a bigger, the numbers that you talk about.
Yeah.
It translates to a big female following.
They shouldn't be shy. Sport is not about men, you know, men are part of.
Yeah.
I had to learn to do multi-sport. I had to go and do Commonwealth Games in Australia and Melbourne. Where I had to do lawn bowls. I had to know what lawn bowls was all about. I had to know about...
Umdala, Roberto, so fancy.
No, but it's
lawn bowls.
yeah, I mean, it's part of the Commonwealth Games
Yeah,
sports that they offer, you know, boxing and gymnastics and all of those things.
But I
So
shouldn't
it's
be
just
too
not about
disparaging,
that.
because I know that it's attracting a lot of young people as a sporting code in general. Now, you talked about the humor and the creativity that you often infuse in your conversations. Here's a voice note that speaks to just the beautiful things, the fabric of the texture that we found in your show, especially the humorous ones.
Good evening, Azania. Good evening, Robert. I just wanted to find out from Robert, where does the phrase "qim shelele," where does it come from or originate from? And what is the idea behind it, given its popularity? Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. He says "qim shelele," but it's "qim shelele," right?
Game over. Big round of applause.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
I think in incorporating language, and this is when I was at SABC 1 and doing Soccer Zone and Abola Duma, there was English that was spoken a lot, you know, then. And for me, I thought, but the people that are consuming all of this, Abodak, you know, it's people that I know. And that's why when I would start a show, I would say, you know, and people, you'd meet, you know, inmates who are out and be like, hey, but you know how much that meant to us when you mention Pagatema Jele, because nobody ever thinks about us. Nobody ever thinks about mentioning anything. You know, we're just a scam to society, etc. And then slowly but surely, then I started trying to infuse little phrases. And obviously, okay, thanks, Azania Ngabong. Such a shelele. You know, yeah, so such a shelele. No, it is but shelele. Then you play around with the clicks and the language, and which is beautiful. So you color it in, then shelele.
I was there. Even Madlupu too, you know, because it means the one who grew up eating uputu and is like quite a tough man.
No, it is. But you know what I was trying to do at the time was just to try and say, don't be shy. Don't be shy about language. Don't be shy about coloring in your name with whatever, because I always gave people nicknames, but people always struggled to give me a nickname. So that was a nickname I gave myself. I was just like, I will my
Yes, and you're able to connect, the heart-to-heart connection. So I want to come back to the room dividers, because that rugby conversation became hugely popular. And it took the rugby conversation around transformation as well in a direction that hadn't existed before, hearing from these former players. So will they be back, firstly, and do you feel that it's driving the transformation agenda forward?
You know, when I watched the Boks playing England, Ellis Park, first test, the one thing that ran on social media, everyone was like, I wish the room dividers were back. I wish we could listen on Tuesday to them. Because all of a sudden, here was a team. Now, there were debutants, black players that were there, you know, lettering the Springbok team the way a Springbok team should be. You know, reflecting people that can play rugby, not counting that, I've got two, now close the tap because I got two blacks, let's be happy, let's go and play rugby. Everyone was there on merit. Then England, first 22 minutes, they were honest. And you could tell the mood. You could also sense as well that the narrative was going to go around, you see these duckies now. You put them in, and we become a useless team. Turnaround comes through, and there's an application, you know, South Africans together, pulling together, and we win that game. And the tries are magnificent, and everybody's happy. And there's almost that sign of, we're back to 95 when they won the Rugby World Cup. There's almost that Rainbow Nation feel. It shouldn't be a Rainbow Nation feel. It should just be the way we feel every day, and the room dividers will be back.
Fantastic. We're excited. But I want to take you back, Robert, because it is people who open the doors, just as you open doors for other people into this industry. They're people who open doors for you. Who got you, who opened the biggest door for you?
In terms of broadcasting?
Yes.
My legs. No, seriously, as I've always repeated the story, that I literally heard about auditions at SABC as a student at Wits. I didn't know where SABC was. They pointed to a tower. And I walked from campus to the SABC. I knew no one inside. There was no, hey, you know, there was absolutely no one. It was just a case of, this is what I can do. Went for an audition. I was called back. You know, kind of got a bit bored of doing continuity. I wanted to do sport. That was my thing. Also, again, went for an audition, knew nobody. They put me through on a Thursday. On a Sunday, they said, good to go. Let's do this thing. So there was no person. I was the driver of what I wanted to do.
But what about the influence of someone like Martin Locke?
Martin was important, though, because I needed to get there first.
in order to access these people.
In order to access somebody like Martin Locke, who as a kid growing up, I mean, he has an anchor that's sitting down talking to you every day on television, and then the next thing, you're sitting next to Martin Locke.
Well,
it's always like pinch, pinch, pinch moment, you know?
Tell you what, because Martin Locke was actually one of the first sports presenters in the country after the television medium was introduced here in South Africa back in the late 1970s. And he's the man who helped Robert kickstart his passion for mainstream media once his legs got him there. Well, he's a veteran horse racing commentator and host of multiple sports shows, including Sports View, Top Sport, and the World Golf Show. Well, he's here tonight to pay a special tribute to one of his favorite proteges. Let's welcome Martin to the show.
No, you're lying.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Who was Martin Locke? Wow.
Oh, it's been a while, eh?
It's been a while. Martin,
Wow.
do join us, join us.
Gee whiz.
Sorry, as I'm
Jeez.
dying to do a show with you. I'd love to do one.
Oh, thank you. Grab a seat, grab a seat. Come this way. Well, you know
Jeez.
what? Well, the
Let me
two
cool
of you,
down, let
well,
me cool
Robert,
down.
Yes, exactly. His veins are popping out
Don't
from
lie.
the sheer surprise of it all. Let's go for a break, and when we come back, we'll explore more of this journey, the mentorship, the camaraderie that has brought these two men together. And Robert Marawa fans, don't forget to keep sending us your voice notes. You're welcome back to radio messages for Robert. And we've heard every suggestion about what Robert should do into the next decade, that he should be the CEO of a football club or the Minister of Sport. Well, we'll also talk to him about what we can expect from him for the next decade and beyond after the break. Welcome back to Real Talk with me, Azania. If you've just joined us, we've been in conversation with legendary sportscaster Robert Marawa. And just before the break, we surprised him with the presence of the one and only Martin Locke, no stranger to the sporting world. I have never seen a man need a fan that quickly. His veins started bulging and he burst into a sweat. So emotional. Robert, what is going on with you right now? You're still fanning. So
Like-
a plan came together. You were obviously surprised.
I was. I mean, I was just saying to Martin now, I'd been asking so many people through time, like, where can I locate Martin? Where can I find him? They kept telling me, go to Durban, go to Mhlanga, go wherever. And I just couldn't find him because I needed, again, to pay him a debt of gratitude, to say, you could have been funny towards me because there was no, like, literally no person. If people know Larry King from CNN, Larry King of sport, you know, that was the person, that was the go-to person. When you heard the voice, you knew sport was on, you know, and all I needed to do was meet him, have a session with him, and just literally say, thank you for taking my hand, guiding me through the most treacherous journey, because remember, there was no pay-per-view TV. 98 World Cup had come through. All the games were there at SABC, so I had to split. Half the games I do. As a little young, early 20s boy, and I have to share that load with Martin Locke. So thank you so very much.
It was a great,
So good to see
great journey. But now you said that you're trying to find me because you want to do something for me. Do you remember I said to you, if you succeed, I want to become your manager. 25%? What do you think?
Of that 5.5 million rand.
That is
That's
fine.
not a bad cut. That's not
That
a
is
bad cut,
fine.
Martin.
We'll live on that. We'll do it.
Martin, do you remember the first time you met Robert? What did you think?
The most extraordinary thing, I was telling my wife the other day again about it. How did you get to know Robert Marawa? Where did he come from? I was, doing all the programs on SABC, and my job was to find new presenters. And Di Stanton, who was Lady Di, remember Lady Di? Looked a bit like her. That was. She said to me, "Look, we've got to get some more presenters. We've got the big change coming in our lives. This fantastic new world we're in." And we were up in the control room, two big studios like this, and we were up in the top there, and they were coming in one after the other, one after the other. And she came through to me on the intercom and said, "Look, I haven't found too much at the moment. Have you found anyone?" I said, "No, not yet." And then suddenly I heard a voice. I said, "Di," and she go, "Di," and she came back. I said, "That voice.
Wow.
Who is that?"
Yes.
I said, "Just put a cross next to it and put my name." And that was it. I was then to take him over and look after him. And I don't know how much you learned from me, because you've got a lot going for yourself. I mean, you're a little bit bigger than me.
So it's always been important for you then to nurture this upcoming talent, to groom people that would come after you.
Absolutely, because look, you need to find people with a feel. They must feel the sport and what they do. You mentioned Cass Naidoo just now. Trevor Quirk said, woman cricket commentator, she's absolutely brilliant right now. Absolutely brilliant. I heard in Robert that voice, and well, obviously he was from Hilton College. He had a great upbringing. It's a bit like me in a way. He's very fond of the girls. But I could see something that was that I could work on, and that I could work with, and I can gently move away as well.
Yes.
But I'm thinking of coming back, you know, because I'm liking the idea of being a manager.
What have you been up to?
That is fine.
No, I mean, we got a lovely home in Jazalza Winelands Estate in Stellenbosch. I play a lot of golf. I keep very, very fit. And I'm doing a lot in the property world. With 2 big companies, just for fun, but keeping fit and having a really good time.
Fantastic. Robert Martin is here. We're going to let him go in a short while. What do you have to say to him?
I mean, it's for me probably a very humbling moment, you know, simply because you bring like the doyen of broadcasting. The very few people who make you want to do something from an early age.
Yes.
And I had no doubt, and that's why I'm saying that when I did continuity, I got bored of it, because you know that the news is coming up, you know that Bold and the Beautiful is coming up. But with sport, you needed that anchor, you needed that person that made you feel deep down inside that no matter what, I will work every little breath, sweat, tears to get to a level where Martin Locke is, and hopefully beyond.
Tell him.
Because that is literally it.
That is literally it.
So, boss.
Well, can I?
This is literally all I'm saying, is that you influence me in a way that nobody ever has, and just that ability for me to sit alongside you in that World Cup in '98, and remember it was the first time for South Africa as well, venturing to France. The whole country's eyes and attention were on you and I. I was a little kid, you were the experienced person, but you were able to say, watch out for this, watch out for that. And I'll be indebted, like, you know, I don't have words, but you've been a major part.
Well, I just want to say that, and for any youngsters who are watching something like this, to succeed and do this job the right way, you have to do an amazing amount of work. I mean, I've done 4 Olympic Games. I don't know much about most of those things, but, you know, running and that is easy. But you have to work. I mean, I used to put about 100 pieces of paper sticking out so they would, you know, I could pick up, I hadn't a clue. And I passed that on to Robert in all sports, that if you do the homework, you can be relaxed. You see, when he sits down, you don't worry.
Yes.
The biggest thing he's doing right now, if you watch him with the soccer and watch Carol, by the way, you better watch out. Carol's coming on. I might just join her. She's also a protege of mine, Carol. If you see the way they're doing this, when you're dealing with overseas rugby, soccer players that have played for England, some of the greatest, and broadcasters of the greatest, you can't sit down there and talk to that guy who does it every weekend, the game. Yeah. You are picking up on all these things. You're reading every single thing about every single player, and I'm really proud of you, what you're doing right now.
Fantastic, gentlemen.
Thank you so
we
much.
are all super proud of the two of you, and that's why we had to have this reunion. Thank you so much, Martin. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure.
Well, you can ask any young person who their biggest inspiration is when it comes to the world of sportscasting. And the name Robert Marawa is bound to come up, so stay tuned for more after the break.
Each week for 10 weeks, we're giving away the latest Huawei P20 Pro and 10 gigabytes once-off MTN data to 10 amazing storytellers. All you have to do is share your special moments with us. Follow at HuaweiZA and at MTNZA and tag us with hashtag HuaweiP20 and hashtag RealTalkMoments. We want to see and hear your stories and create lasting connections across the country. Each week there's a different theme, so keep checking our social pages for details and you could be a winner.
Hey Bob, it's that no-name brand here called Wilson Binkosi. Like many, I'm very pleased to learn that you are back to finish what you started. It is called honor, taking it to its most logical conclusion. Since you and many others who are close and dear to my heart have been gone, I've been feeling most alone, and you have absolutely no idea what it means to have you back. So take your place, Bob, and keep on keeping on. Not only do I call you my friend and brother, but I'm also a big fan of yours. I'm in your corner, so you can count on me anytime, anywhere. I wish you well.
Where are the tissues? Welcome back to Real Talk with me, Azania. You've just heard the voice of Wilson B. Nkosi, someone who is paying tribute to Robert Marawa, who is our guest for this hour.
Yo.
You just heard Wilson's thoughts of the impact you've had on his life, the impact you've had on broadcasting. He talked about how lonely he was without you. And there was clearly an incredible connection that you have with him. You paid a special tribute to him after 30 years on Metro FM. And you've been quite honest and open about how you felt about the late Eddie Zondi as well. Talk to me about Wilson. Talk to me about Eddie Zondi.
The thing is, you can't just allow a legend to say such things. And it's almost similar to, you guys are throwing the bombs today. It's similar to a Martin Locke situation where, again, growing up, because I was scared of radio. I'll qualify that. I was scared of radio because I thought radio was that great. I wanted to be on TV doing sport, but radio never crossed my mind because I was scared of radio. I was scared of radio because of the big names.
Yeah.
You're living in a farm, you're growing up in a farm, you're listening to Abo Kansas City, Malindi Gantuli, Joshua Mlaba, all of those names from Radio Zulu. And you are like, I could never. I mean, the first time I met Kansas City, I was shaking. I was like, here is a God of radio.
You had that kind of reverence.
It was just
for
like,
these people.
He lives, he's there. And Wilson, in this whole year, from the 15th of June, since I've been off air, up until now, there are regular messages he's been sending. And that's why I'm saying that Wilson's a legend. I was a kid listening to him, admiring him, and he kept saying in those messages, listen, and he always calls me Bob, listen, Bob, you have to come back.
Right.
Whatever it takes, you've got to come back on radio.
And here you are.
And that's why I asked him to come through when the announcement was made 2 weeks ago to the SABC. I called him at 1 o'clock in the morning on that Thursday, and I said, sorry for the late call, but this announcement's going to be made. Like, I want you to be there.
Yes,
and
well, we can't end the show without yet another surprise. You talk about growing up in the farms in Vryheid.
Hey.
Well, have you ever heard of Smangaliso Mruli? He's a young man from Vryheid who has gained some much-deserved online recognition for his coach, Stephen Kompella impersonations. And he's widely known as Steve Kompella Jr. Well, Robert is a huge fan of his humor. So in the spirit of good fun, here is Steve Kompella Jr.'s welcome back to Radio Message for Robert.
Sure.
Never, even by mistake, never underestimate that guy. And I'm not saying this because he's watching. Because sometimes as coaches we have a tendency to speak sweet languages in good times, but in bad times we hail insults. That guy is intelligent and yet very humble. Because sometimes intelligence accompanied by humility is subdued, but intelligence portrayed often comes across as arrogance. That guy is intelligent and yet very humble. Mr. Marawa, ngiyakuhlonipha baba. All the best.
I think we've said it all, Robert.
Yeah.
Welcome back to radio. It's been a pleasure having you as my guest this evening.
I really, really thank you guys so much. I mean, if this is what Real Talk's going to be all about, South Africa is in for a very good ride. Positivity, talk, let's engage. Let's not bring each other down. Let's be smart in our discussions. And thank you so much. And good to have you back on the airwaves.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. So, kokumoya ne?
Peace.
Oheme hanya ne? So emotional. Well, from Little Flower Primary School in Eshowe to a man who often needs no introduction, the world has certainly been one big abundance of energy for Robert Marawa. He is definitely a great example of what working hard and working smart can earn you. So diarize the first weekday of August and remember to tune in to Robert Marawa as he hosts his brand new radio show on Metro FM and Radio 2000. From me, myself, Azania, and the Real Talk team, we'll see you again tomorrow. Stay tuned to SABC 3 because Isidingo's next. Good night.